Ladies and gentlemen, we now come to the last dance of the evening. I hope you'll enjoy the farewell waltz.
Some enchanted evening, you may see a stranger, you may see a stranger across a crowded room.
I was 18 and going to a New Year's Eve dance in a dress I'd borrowed from my best friend. So I felt the bee's knees in this dress. About halfway through the evening, I saw this tall, dark, handsome bloke with really big eyes, and you couldn't help but notice him. And I thought he looked quite a dish and very nicely dressed. He came over and asked me to dance, and I was thinking, what a nice chap. And all the way through he was banging on about his girlfriend who he'd just split up with, and he wouldn't shut up about her, but he was a good dancer. When I went back to my group of friends, I said, oh, that bloke with the big eyes, all he's doing is going on about his girlfriend. So I want to get as far away from him as I can. At the end of the dance, they always played the Last Waltz. And I remember it was Some Enchanted Evening, which I liked that song very much, very popular at the time. And he came up and asked me for the Last Waltz, and he said, can I walk you home? So he did, and on the way he said, I'm going to marry you. And I thought, what a strange bloke. Next morning I said to my mum, I've met a bloke last night and he says, I'm going to marry you. And she said, are you seeing him again? I said, yeah. She says, you'd better bring him home because I'd like to look at him. He must be crackers. By March, there we were going to get married. And at that time, because of income tax relief, if you married in March, before the start of the new tax year, you got all your tax back, so it was a blooming good incentive. And that's what we did. So that was it, we were duly married. Quite very hard up, the pair of us. So there was no question of a good reception. It was a good reception, but it was my mum doing it where we lived, and there was no honeymoon. We bought a terraced house and moved into that. We had 2 children, my daughter first, and then 8 years later along came Dave, and I was pleased. A son and a daughter is nice, yeah. So we had a really good married life, and we really prospered. Unfortunately, when he was an apprentice, although we didn't know it at the time, and this was going back many years, he did get asbestos on his lungs, and it laid there until he was 65, and then showed itself as cancer in both lungs, and that was a terrible time, terrible. But he died when he was 65, and I was left on my own. It was quite an isolated place, and it was quite lonely, although by then I'd got grandchildren and family. and I decided to move to Wadebridge, which is where I lived when I met Johnny, the second one in my life. And I was quite all right on my own and busy looking after my son's children. And I just suddenly thought, what's all this? I need some adult company, somebody to chat to on my own level. So I thought, why not put an advert in the Cornish Guardian? My family were really annoyed with me and thought I was laying myself open to all kinds of weirdos, which I suppose I was. But anyway, in went the advert, and I got a few replies. But the last one was Johnny, and said he was interested in the same kind of things that I'd listed, and could we meet up? And I really liked the sound of his voice, so I said yeah, and we arranged to meet at Padstow. So I went a little bit early to the car park where we'd arranged, so that I could have a good look at him discreetly before he got up to me. And there were two big car parks. I was in one and he was in the other. So I was sat there fuming and thinking, God, it's not going to show after I've turned out here. And I saw this chap and I knew straight away he was the only one, so it had to be him. And as he walked up to the car, I really liked the look of him. He was very open-faced and pleasant looking. And I fancied him, I suppose, that's all you can say. And yet I was only looking for friendship. So it was Remembrance Day to the date, and we walked up to the War Memorial in Padstow, and the guns went off, the cannon fired, and I thought, this is it. I saw him then, he rang me, and I saw him 2 or 3 times in quick succession. And I thought, oh, he's really nice, really nice. And then it suddenly went quiet. I didn't hear from him. So I thought, well, I'm going to ring up and see what's happening. He's not messing me about. So I did. He'd been in, not a dating agency, but it was a friendship thing. And he was balancing about 5 ladies all at the same time, because it was just friendship and dancing. So I was a complication. So it said, look, you're very nice and I'm sure you will meet the right man one of these days. So on that note, we finished the conversation, and I told my sister, and I said, oh, I really like him, but he doesn't want to take it any further. And she said, well, if he feels like you do, he'll be back. And sure enough, he did ring the next day and said he was in Wadebridge and could he call on me. And I thought, well, I'm keeping it cool, because he's not just picking me up and putting me down whenever he wants. However, he came to the house and he looked so sweet again that I thought, oh, I can't be mad at him. And he didn't mention all his other ladies until much later. But I bagged him that day. So we decided to move in together. And I did like Newquay, so I moved there. And by that time, I really loved him. And I knew he was the one I wanted to be with for the rest of my life. So we didn't get married, but we're very happy and just love it and love him as much as ever I did that first day of sewing.
Again and again. Some enchanted evening, someone may be laughing